Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UE's horizon, watching the stars through the main screen. His ship was the first human vessel to travel this far from Earth. 300 people were on board, all ready to make history. They were going to meet aliens for the first time. Jake had been a soldier before becoming a captain. He knew how to fight, but today he hoped there would be no fighting. The mission was simple. Find the aliens, talk to them, and make friends. Earth needed all eyes in the big galaxy. "Captain, we're getting close to the meeting point," said Lieutenant Commander Lisa Rodriguez. She was the ship's diplomat. Lisa had spent 5 years learning about alien cultures from the radio signals Earth had picked up. She knew more about aliens than anyone else on the ship. Dr. Alex Thompson looked up from his science station. "The readings are incredible. There's a ship out there bigger than anything we've ever built." Alex was excited. He had dreamed of meeting aliens since he was a child. Commander Ben Clark stood near the weapons console. He didn't trust aliens. "Sir, we should be ready for anything." "We don't know what they want from us." Jake nodded. Ben was right to be careful. "Keep the shields up, but don't power the weapons. We're here to talk." The alien ship appeared on their screen. It was huge, 50 times bigger than the horizon. The ship looked like it was made of crystal and glowed with strange lights. Jake felt small looking at it. "They're asking to come aboard," Lisa said, reading her communications panel. "They want to meet us face to face." "Let them come," Jake decided. "But keep security teams ready." An hour later, Jake stood in the main docking bay with his senior officers. The alien shuttle was unlike anything they had seen. It made no sound as it landed, and its doors opened like water flowing. 5 aliens stepped out. They were tall and thin with pale blue skin. Their leader wore robes that seemed to be made of starlight. When he spoke, a small device on his chest translated his words into English. "I am High Arbiter Zethkri of the Velkrani people," the alien said. His voice was cold and formal. "We represent the Galactic Federation. We welcome humanity to the galaxy." Lisa stepped forward with a smile. "Thank you. We're honored to meet you. I'm Commander Rodriguez, and this is Captain Morrison." Zethkri looked at them like a teacher looking at children. "You will come with us to the conference room. There are things you must understand about your place in the galaxy." They walked through the ship's corridors to the main meeting room. Jake noticed that the aliens looked around with what seemed like disappointment. Their technology was clearly much more advanced than anything humans had in the conference room. Zethkri began to speak. "The Galactic Federation has kept peace in the galaxy for 10,000 years. 12 great species work together to maintain order." "That sounds wonderful," Lisa said. "We hope humanity can join this peace." Zethkri made a sound that might have been laughter. "All species have their role. The great species lead and make decisions. Younger species serve and provide what is needed." Jake felt something cold in his stomach. "What kind of service?" "Humanity will be classified as a Class 7 servant species," Zethkri said matter-of-factly. "You will provide labor and resources to your betters. Your worlds will supply food and materials for the Federation." The room went quiet. Lisa looked shocked. "I think there's been a misunderstanding. We came here as equals, hoping to contribute to galactic civilization." "There is no misunderstanding," another alien said. This one had green skin and 4 arms. "All new species serve. This is the natural order." Ben Clark stepped forward, his hand moving toward his weapon. "We don't serve anyone." Zethkri tilted his head. "You will learn. All species resist at first. Then they understand their place." Dr. Thompson tried to keep things calm. "Perhaps we could discuss this. Find a role that works for everyone." "There is nothing to discuss," Zethkri said. He pulled out a small device. We will demonstrate why resistance is pointless." The device began to glow. Suddenly, half the humans in the room fell to their knees, screaming in pain. Dr. Thompson collapsed, blood running from his nose. Lisa tried to stay standing, but fell, holding her head and crying out. Jake felt like knives were cutting into his brain. The pain was terrible, but he forced himself to stay on his feet. Around him, his crew was suffering, and he could do nothing to help them. "This is a neural compliance device," Zethkri explained calmly while humans writhed on the floor. "It causes pain directly to the brain. All species submit quickly when they feel this." The pain stopped suddenly. Jake's crew lay gasping on the floor. Some were unconscious. Others were crying. The aliens watched without emotion. "You will learn your place," Zethkri said. "Resistance causes only pain. Acceptance brings peace." But something had changed in the room. Jake looked around at his crew. Instead of defeat in their eyes, he saw something else. Anger. Cold, calculating anger. Lisa pulled herself to her feet, wiping blood from her nose. Her diplomatic smile was gone. In its place was the look of someone who had just learned what real enemies looked like. Ben Clark stood up slowly, his hand still near his weapon. The aliens didn't seem to notice that he was studying them, learning their positions, planning. Dr. Thompson got to his knees, but his scientist's mind was already working. He was looking at the device that had hurt them, thinking about how it worked, how it might be stopped. Jake realized that the aliens had made a terrible mistake. They thought the pain would break human spirit, like it had broken every other species they had met. They didn't understand that humans were different. Humans had been fighting and surviving for thousands of years. Pain didn't break them. It made them angry. "We understand," Jake said quietly, helping his crew to their feet. His voice was steady, but his eyes were hard as steel. "We understand exactly what you are." Zethkri seemed pleased. "Good. You learn quickly. We will leave you now to consider your new role. In one cycle, we will return for your formal submission." The aliens left the room, confident that they had won. They had done this same demonstration thousands of times with hundreds of species. It always worked the same way. But as their shuttle departed, they didn't see the look that passed between the humans. They didn't understand the quiet words spoken in the conference room after they left. And they certainly didn't realize that, instead of breaking humanity's spirit, they had just declared war on the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Jake Morrison stood at the window, watching the alien ship disappear into the stars. His crew stood behind him, battered but not broken. They had come to make friends. Instead, they had found enemies. "What are your orders, Captain?" Ben Clark asked. Jake turned to face his people. They had been explorers an hour ago. Now they were soldiers. "Again, send a message to Earth," he said. "Tell them exactly what happened here. Tell them what these aliens expect from us." He paused, his voice growing cold. "And tell them to prepare for war." That was the day humanity broke. But in breaking, they became something the galaxy had never seen before. They became free. 3 days had passed since the aliens hurt them. Captain Jake Morrison called his top officers to a secret meeting in the ship's most secure room. The walls were thick metal that blocked all signals. No one could listen to what they said here. Doctor Alex Thompson still had bandages on his head from when the alien device made him bleed, but his eyes were bright with discovery. "I've been studying the recordings of their technology," he said. "Their weapons and shields use energy in ways we never thought possible. But I found something important." "What did you find?" Jake asked. "They have gaps in their defenses. Their technology is very advanced, but it follows patterns. Predictable patterns. They haven't had to adapt or change in thousands of years." Commander Ben Clark sat forward in his chair. I've been thinking about how they fight. They expect everyone to give up when they show their power. They haven't fought a real war in a very long time. Maybe they forgot how. Lieutenant Commander. Lisa Rodriguez looked different now. The friendly diplomat was gone. In her place sat someone who understood enemies. I learned something too. I studied their behavior and voices. These aliens have never faced real danger. They don't know what it's like to fight for survival. Jake nodded slowly. So they're strong, but they're soft. They have great weapons, but they don't know real war. Exactly, Ben said. They conquered other species easily because those species gave up, but we're not like other species. Dr. Thompson pulled up data on his tablet. I analyzed the neural device they used on us. It sends pain signals directly to the brain. But I think I can find a way to block it. Maybe even turn it against them. How long will that take? Jake asked. Give me a few weeks, maybe a month. Lisa spoke up. While Alex works on their technology, I want to learn more about the species they've conquered. Maybe some of them want to fight back, but never had help. Jake made his decision. We're not running away. We're not giving up. And we're not negotiating with them. He looked at each of his officers. We're going to war. What about Earth? Ben asked. They need to know what's coming. We'll send messages back home. But first, we follow their fleet. We learn everything we can about them. When Earth is ready to fight, we'll have the information they need. The crew began what they called the Darwin Protocol. Darwin was an old Earth scientist who said only the strongest survive. Now they would use everything humans had learned about survival to fight aliens who had forgotten how to really fight. Meanwhile, on Earth, the messages from the horizon were causing panic and anger. President Karen Walsh sat in an emergency meeting with leaders from every country. The room was full of generals, scientists, and politicians. Admiral Pete Collins stood at the front of the room with a big screen showing pictures from the alien ship. Ladies and gentlemen, we are not alone in the universe, and the neighbors are not friendly. The room erupted in shouting. Some people wanted to hide. Others wanted to surrender. But most were angry. They want to make us slaves, President Walsh said loudly, making everyone quiet. That is not going to happen. Dr. Susan Mitchell was Earth's top expert on how minds work. She had been studying the alien recordings. These creatures have never known fear. They've never had to fight for their lives. That's their weakness. General Chris Williams was in charge of Earth's space defense. He was an old soldier who had fought in many wars. We need to think different. This isn't like fighting other humans. We need new ways to fight. What do you mean? President Walsh asked. These aliens expect us to fight like they do. Big ships, straight battles, surrender when we lose. Chris smiled grimly. But we won't do that. We'll fight like humans. We'll be sneaky. We'll hit them where they don't expect. We'll make them afraid. Dr. Susan stood up. I can help with that. Fear is something they've never felt. If we can make them scared, really scared, they might break. Over the next months, Earth changed completely. Every country worked together for the first time in history. Factories that made cars started making weapons. Scientists who studied medicine started studying alien biology. Teachers started training people for war. But this wasn't just about building guns and ships. This was about changing how humans thought about fighting. Dr. Helen Carter led a team of doctors and scientists. They weren't making weapons to kill aliens. They were making things to scare them. If these creatures have never been sick, never been hurt, then even small injuries might terrify them, she explained. Captain Paul Jackson designed new spaceships. They didn't look like the big, obvious ships humans usually built. These ships were small and quiet. They could hide in space and attack without warning. "We'll fight like submarines," he said. "Strike fast, disappear, strike again." Back on the horizon, Jake and his crew were learning more about their enemies every day. They followed the alien fleet at a safe distance, recording everything. "They have 12 different species in their federation," Lisa reported. "But they don't really trust each other. They just work together because they're all afraid of losing their power." "That's useful," Jake said. "What else?" "The species that rule them evolved on easy worlds. No big predators, plenty of food. They never had to fight to survive like we did." Dr. Thompson had more good news. "I figured out how their communication system works. I can't break into it yet, but I can make small changes. Little delays, tiny errors. Nothing they'll notice at first." "What will that do?" Ben asked. "It will make them paranoid. They'll start wondering if their technology is failing. They'll stop trusting their own systems." Jake smiled for the first. "Time in weeks. Perfect. We'll make them afraid of shadows." The plan was coming together. Earth was preparing for war, but not the kind of war the aliens expected. This would be a war fought in the dark, with fear as a weapon and surprise as an advantage. Jake recorded a message to send back to Earth. "The aliens think they broke us that day. They think we'll surrender like every other species did. But they don't understand humans. We don't break. We bend, we adapt, and we fight back harder." He looked at his crew, all of them working together with one purpose. They wanted servants. Instead, they got enemies. They wanted peace. Instead, they got war. And when this is over, they'll learn what humans really are. The war hadn't started yet, but humanity was already changing. They were becoming something the galaxy had never seen. They were becoming free, and they would make sure everyone else could be free too. The aliens thought that day broke humanity. But breaking was just the first step. Now came the rebuilding, and humanity was going to rebuild itself into something stronger than the galaxy had ever known. 6 months had passed since that terrible day when the aliens hurt them. The Federation thought the human ship Horizon was destroyed in an accident. They believed the humans had tried to fight and lost. They were very wrong. Captain Jake Morrison stood in the shadows of his ship's bridge. The Horizon was still alive, but now it was invisible. Chief Engineer Danny Price had used stolen alien technology to make their ship disappear from sensors. To alien eyes, they looked like floating space junk. "We're ghosts now," Danny had said with a grin. "They can't see us coming." The Horizon moved through Federation space like a hunting wolf. They watched, they learned, and they prepared to strike. Dr. Alex Thompson had spent months studying alien technology. His workspace was full of alien devices they had secretly stolen. "I understand how their systems work now," he told Jake. "They're powerful but predictable. They haven't changed their designs in thousands of years." Lieutenant Commander Lisa Rodriguez was working on something different. She had made contact with a species called the Nithrak. These reptile-like aliens had been conquered by the Federation 800 years ago. Unlike other conquered species, they remembered being free. The Nithrak had been waiting for someone strong enough to fight beside them, Lisa reported. They never stopped hoping for freedom. Commander Ben Clark was ready to begin the real war. The first targets are picked. Research stations, communication posts, supply depots. All lightly defended. Jake nodded. "Remember, we're not just fighting to win. We're fighting to scare them. Make them afraid of the dark." The first phase of humanity's hidden war began with silence. Dr. Susan Mitchell's psychological warfare teams on Earth had developed new tactics. Instead of destroying alien communication networks, they made tiny changes. Messages arrived a few seconds late. Important data had small errors. Nothing obvious, but enough to make the aliens worry. "We're not breaking their systems," Susan explained in a recorded message to Jake. "We're breaking their confidence in their systems." The first real attack happened at a Federation research station near the edge of their territory. Commander Clark led a team of 12 humans in a captured alien shuttle. They moved silently through space, looking like a supply ship. The research station had 50 alien scientists and 10 guards. They had never seen real combat. When the humans arrived, the aliens expected a normal inspection. Instead, the humans moved like shadows through the station. They didn't kill anyone, but they took 3 scientists and destroyed all the research. When other Federation ships arrived, hours later, they found the station empty except for terrified survivors who babbled about demons in the dark. "Where are the missing scientists?" a Federation investigators asked. "They just vanished," the survivor said. "One moment they were there, the next they were gone. We never saw who took them." The pattern repeated across Federation space. Sometimes, entire facilities disappeared overnight. Other times, only key personnel vanished, leaving their work and belongings behind. The Federation had never faced an enemy they couldn't see. Dr. Helen Carter's bioweapons were not designed to kill. Instead, they caused alien immune systems to react in strange ways. Aliens who had never been sick suddenly felt weak and dizzy. Some developed rashes. Others had trouble sleeping. "We're not trying to hurt them badly," Helen explained. "We're teaching them that they can be hurt. For species that have never known pain or sickness, even small problems are terrifying." The Federation began to panic. High Arbiter Zethkri called emergency meetings with the ruling council. "Someone is attacking us, but we don't know who or how." "Could it be one of the servant species?" asked a green-skinned Jextai leader. "Impossible," Zethkri replied. "They don't have the technology or the courage." But doubt was spreading through the Federation like a disease. The 12 ruling species had worked together for thousands of years, but now they began to suspect each other. Ancient rivalries that had been buried for millennia started to surface. The Velkrani blamed the Jextai for security failures. The crystalline Morgun accused the Velkrani of losing control. Each species wondered if another was trying to take power by weakening the Federation. On Earth, the war effort had transformed human civilization. General Chris Williams oversaw the largest military buildup in human history. But these weren't just normal weapons and ships. Captain Paul Jackson's new fleet was unlike anything humans had built before. The ships were small, fast, and nearly invisible. They used human submarine tactics adapted for space warfare. Hit the enemy where they don't expect it, then disappear before they can fight back. "We're not trying to match their big ships," Paul explained to his crews. "We're mosquitoes attacking elephants. One mosquito can't hurt an elephant, but 1,000 mosquitoes can drive it crazy." Meanwhile, the Horizon continued its secret mission. Jake and his crew had become the Federation's worst nightmare, an enemy they couldn't find or understand. Lisa Rodriguez had established a network of contacts among conquered species throughout Federation space. The Nithrak were the strongest allies, but others were beginning to hope. Species that had served the Federation for centuries were quietly passing information to the humans. "Freedom is spreading like fire," Lisa reported. "Every successful attack makes more species believe they can be free too." Dr. Thompson made a breakthrough that changed everything. He had figured out how to turn the Federation's neural compliance devices against them. "I can reverse the signal," he explained excitedly. "Instead of causing pain, it will cause panic and confusion." "How long before it's ready?" Jake asked. 2 weeks, maybe 3. And then we can give the Federation a taste of their own medicine." The war was accelerating. What had started as mysterious attacks was becoming a galaxy-wide revolution. But the Federation still didn't know who their real enemy was. High Arbiter Zethkri stood before the Great Council, his pale blue skin showing stress marks that hadn't been there months before. The attacks are coordinated. Someone is organizing. Resistance across multiple sectors. But who? Demanded a four-armed Jextai. No servant species has this capability. What about the humans? Asked a quiet voice from the back. Zethkri made a dismissive gesture. The humans are dead. Their ship was destroyed months ago. They were weak, like all new species. But in the darkness of space, Jake Morrison smiled as he listened to intercepted Federation communications. They still didn't understand what they had awakened that day when they tried to break humanity's spirit. They're about to learn, Jake said quietly, that humans don't stay broken. We get angry, we get even, and we never, ever give up. The hidden war was almost over. Soon it would be time for the real war to begin, and the galaxy would never be the same. 1 year had passed since the aliens tried to make humans into slaves. The great Galactic Federation was falling apart. What started as mysterious attacks had become a war that spread across the entire galaxy. Admiral Jake Morrison stood in the Ya, center of Valthar Prime, the Federation's capital city. The same man who had been tortured by aliens a year ago now commanded the largest fleet humanity had ever built. Around him, human soldiers secured the ancient council chambers where the Federation had ruled for 10,000 years. The mighty High Arbiter Zethkri cowered behind failing energy shields. His pale blue skin was now gray with fear. The alien, who had once looked at humans like insects, now trembled before them. Please, Zethkri begged. We can negotiate. We can find a peaceful solution. Jake's face was hard as stone. You had your chance for peace. You chose war when you tried to break us. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Rodriguez stepped forward. She was no longer the friendly diplomat who had tried to make friends a year ago. Now she spoke for a new kind of galaxy. The Federation is finished. Your empire of slaves is over. The other Federation leaders sat in chains. Some cried. Others stared in shock. None of them understood how this had happened. How had weak humans destroyed their perfect civilization? Dr. Alex Thompson worked at a control panel, shutting down the Federation's last weapons. Their technology is ours now, he reported. All their secrets, all their knowledge. We'll share it freely with every species in the galaxy. Commander Ben Clark coordinated with human forces across the galaxy. The Federation's member species had either surrendered or fled to the far edges of space. Their great fleets were captured or destroyed. Sir, we're getting reports from every sector. The war is over. We won. But Jake knew the real victory wasn't about winning battles. It was about what came next. Send the message, he ordered Lisa. Lisa activated the galaxy-wide communication system. Her voice reached every inhabited world, every space station, every ship. Billions of beings across hundreds of species heard her words. Citizens of the galaxy, you are free. The Federation that enslaved you for thousands of years is gone. No species will ever again be forced to serve others against their will. On. Countless worlds, beings who had been slaves for generations looked up at the sky and cried with joy. The Nithrak, humanity's first allies, roared their victory songs. Species that had forgotten what freedom meant began to remember. Jake continued. The broadcast. We offer you a choice. Join us as equals in a new galactic republic, or go your own way in peace. But know this, we will never allow tyranny to return to this galaxy. The new republic was built on ideas that seemed impossible just a year before. Dr. Thompson led the scientific exchange where all species shared their knowledge freely. No more hoarding technology to maintain power over others. Commander Clark established the Defense Corps. Every species could contribute to protecting the galaxy, but no species would ever stand alone against oppressors again. The Defense Corps' motto was simple: an attack on one is an attack on all. General Chris Williams arrived from Earth with news of the homeworld. The people of Earth are proud, he reported. But they also remember the cost. We lost 12,000 humans in this war. We won't forget their sacrifice. Jake nodded solemnly. Victory had not been free. Entire human crews had died fighting impossible odds. Worlds had been scarred by battle. But the alternative, eternal slavery, had been unacceptable. President Karen Walsh's message from Earth was broadcast alongside the liberation announcement. Humanity fought not for conquest, but for freedom. We offer friendship to all who want it, and we promise protection to all who need it. The transformation was remarkable. Species that had been enemies for millennia began working together. The Velcroni, former rulers of the Federation, slowly learned to govern themselves instead of ruling others. The Jextai discovered they enjoyed building things instead of just taking them. Even some of the Federation's former leaders found new purposes. A few modern scientists began working with Dr. Thompson, sharing their knowledge freely for the first time in their lives. But the greatest change was in humanity itself. They had gone to space as explorers and diplomats. They had become warriors, out of necessity. Now they were something new, guardians of freedom for an entire galaxy. Admiral Morrison walked through the halls of the former Federation capital, now the heart of the new Galactic Republic. Everywhere he looked, he saw different species working together as equals. Children of former enemies played together in the corridors. Dr. Susan Mitchell had arrived from Earth to help with the transition. The psychological healing will take time, she explained. Many species have forgotten how to make their own choices. They've been slaves for so long, freedom frightens them. We'll help them learn, Jake replied. No one gets left behind. Lisa Rodriguez had become the Republic's first chief diplomatic officer. She spent her days helping former slave species write their own constitutions and choose their own leaders. It's like watching children take their first steps, she said. Scary, but beautiful. The Nithrak had become humanity's closest friends. Their warrior culture understood human thinking better than any other species. Together, they patrolled the galaxy's edges, making sure no new tyrants could rise to threaten the peace. Captain Paul Jackson commanded the new Republic fleet. The ships were no longer weapons of war, but symbols of protection. We keep the peace, not through fear, but through strength, he explained to new recruits from dozens of species. As Jake stood in his office aboard the flagship U.E.'s Liberation. He thought about that terrible day a year ago. The day the aliens had tried to break humanity's spirit with pain and threats. He opened his final log entry of the war. The Federation thought they could make us slaves by showing us pain. Instead, they taught us that some things are worth any sacrifice. Today, every thinking being in this galaxy has the choice to be free. Jake looked out at the stars, where ships from hundreds of worlds traveled freely between their homes. No more masters and servants. No more fear of alien overlords. Just free. Beings choosing their own destinies. The Federation tried to break us that day, Jake said to himself. But breaking was just the beginning. In breaking, we found our strength. In fighting, we found our purpose. And in winning, we gave freedom back to the galaxy. The new galactic motto, carved into every human ship and translated into 1,000 languages, served as both promise and warning to anyone who might threaten the peace. Freedom is not given. It is taken, protected, and shared. We are humanity, and we will never break again. The galaxy had learned that day that humans were not just another species to be controlled. They were survivors, fighters, and liberators who would rather die, standing than lie kneeling. And now they stood guard over a galaxy where no one would ever have to kneel again.